The Story of Everything, Chapter 12, The Most High. I sat myself right on the top of the summit cross-legged, facing Sophia and the slice, which just looked like a black line stretching into the distance from way up here. Era was hovering nearby. First, Sophia said, let's call this 10-meter square patch of Everest summit the cornerstone. What's a cornerstone? I asked. It's a perfectly cut stone that builders commonly used in ancient times as the starting point for laying bricks. If the cornerstone is straight and the bricks are straight, and the first two bricks are set snugly against the cornerstone, then the remaining bricks will form a perfectly square building. If the cornerstone is off, or there is no cornerstone, you will quickly lose the straight way, and it will get exponentially worse the farther out you build. An error at the beginning can end up with catastrophe at the end, so we must start off with an accurate picture of the highest, noblest, and most important wisdom. And because the cornerstone determines the rest of the building, it is a microcosm of the whole building, the first fractal iteration, if you will. Like a seed that contains the whole tree, the whole temple is in that first brick. In the first few NT lessons, you will see the fundamental pattern that echoes throughout all things. Now turn yourself around, Sophia said as she flew behind me. I got up and turned around so that I was facing the back edge of the slice, and I sat back down. That's when I noticed a large word engraved on the cornerstone. It simply said, being, in all lowercase letters. Sophia continued, if we're really going to do the ultimate education, then we have to begin at the ultimate beginning. And that means both starting with the highest perspective possible and backing up as far as possible. We must find the highest concept that contains all other concepts, and we must find the beginning before which there is no other beginning in any conceivable order of before and after. By climbing this slice, starting from the darkest depths of ignorance, you have retraced the arduous climb that all thinkers must make to that highest concept above which there is no other. And that concept is being. It is the broadest possible concept containing all others. As far as perspective is concerned, you can climb no higher than this. Okay, I said, you might have to help me wrap my mind around that. Sure, Sophia replied. I'll tell you a little story. Imagine a girl named Janae who lives in a magical, peaceful version of planet Earth, where everyone is friendly and helpful. The thing is, she lives in a very unusual town, cut off from the rest of the world. Her town is surrounded by hills, and the sky is always gray and overcast. The townsfolk are unaware that anything exists beyond those hills or above that layer of cloud, nor are they curious about anything. They read books, but those books are only about their own little town. But Janae is tired of those books. She is curious and restless. She dares to ask questions her neighbors have never even thought to ask, like, what's beyond those hills, or what's above the sky? No one knows the answers to her questions or cares to find out. Maybe they're scared of the answers, or maybe they're just lazy. So one day, she decides to answer them herself. She goes out and climbs one of the hills to see what's on the other side. When she gets to the top of the hill, she's astonished to find down below another town quite similar to hers. Her world has just doubled in size. She descends to the town, and she meets an elderly woman working in her garden. She introduces herself as Janae from the town over the hill. "What town is this?" she asks. The lady answers Joy, which is a perfect name for a girl delighted to discover new things. The woman invites Janae inside and shows her a map. She points to a dot on the map and says, "This is the town Joy. It is one of a handful of towns in Mercer County, and Mercer County is one of the many counties in the state of Illinois." Janae's world has just grown 1,000 times larger, but she wonders if there's still more. She asks, "Are there more states, or is Illinois the whole world?" The woman replies, "Oh no, the world is much bigger than just Illinois. In fact, Illinois is just one of 50 states." The woman points to a large map of the United States on her wall and says, "Those are all the states. Together, they make up a country called the United States of America." "Are there other countries?" Janae asks. "Yes," the woman replies. Then the woman picks up a globe and hands it to Janae and says, "This globe shows all the countries. This is the earth. This is the whole world." This is the point at which Janae's mind is completely blown. This globe is what she had been looking for her whole life, something that shows everything everywhere with nothing left out. With this globe, she knows exactly where she is and where everything else is that exists around her. She feels a sense of completion and satisfaction. But then she has another question. "Is there anything above the clouds?" she asks. The woman says, "Oh yes, there is much more beyond the clouds. In fact, there are many other worlds beyond the clouds." The woman takes Janae outside where the sky is cleared up, and they watch the sun set with the half moon high overhead. Janae now realizes that there are at least 2 other globes out there, the sun and the moon. At midnight, when the half moon sets and the sky is completely dark, the woman takes Janae out to see the stars. She says, "Look, each one of these stars is a setting sun, and almost all of them have their own planet worlds orbiting around them. And that cloudy band you see in the sky is called the Milky Way. The Milky Way is a rotating disk of billions of stars called a galaxy. We live in the Milky Way galaxy, and there are trillions of other galaxies in the universe." Janae's world is now incomprehensibly bigger than she ever thought possible. She asks, "Is the universe the biggest thing then?" The woman replies, "As far as we know, yes." The next morning, after breakfast, the woman tells Janae, "You know, after thinking about it, there is something bigger than the universe. The world of ideas and imagination. Let's go for a drive." So they take a drive to the city of Chicago, which of course blows Janae's mind again. "I never knew there were so many people or such tall buildings," she says in wonder. Then they arrive at their destination, the Chicago Public Library. "What's this?" Janae asks. The woman replies, "This is called a library. This is the globe, so to speak, of everything humans can ever know or even imagine. You see, human knowledge is, in some ways, bigger than the universe, because the universe occupies just one small section of the library. Let me show you." So they go in, and the woman shows Janae all the books and how they are arranged according to all the things humans can know about. and all the different ways of knowing and all the different ways of imagining all the things. She shows her books on philosophy, religion, the social sciences, language, the natural sciences, technology, the fine arts, literature, fiction, and history. Janae checks out one of each kind of book to take home and read. On the way back home, Janae's head is spinning with information overload and a seeming paradox. She asks the woman, if human knowledge contains the universe, but the universe contains libraries and the people whose brains contain knowledge, then what is really the biggest thing that contains all other things? What is the biggest globe that contains all other globes? If I could know that, then my search will come to an end and I can begin my studies. The woman replies, the answer is in that Aristotle book you checked out. The answer is being. That is the biggest globe, the globe that contains all other globes. Because everything is a being of one kind or another, and taken all together, they are called simply being. But now I think your parents are getting worried about you, so we better get you back home. And so you see, Aleph, you are like Janae, and Janae is like every philosopher. You have taken the journey from the depths of ignorance to higher and higher things until you have reached the very top, above which there is no higher thing. That highest perspective is being, because it embraces all other things. It is the globe of all globes, and your education will be one of descending through the divisions of being into more specific things so that you always know where you are in relation to everything else. You are going to divide being into its continents and oceans, and the continents into countries, and so on. But what about non-being, I asked? Isn't that a thing? And if that's a thing, then we need a higher meta-category that is divided into being and non-being. You are now officially a philosopher, Sophia replied with a chuckle. And you would be right, but you're missing a puzzle piece, Aleph. You see, the kind of non-being you're talking about, if it's really going to be the opposite of being in the broadest sense of the term, which is the sense of being we're talking about, that non-being has to be proportionate to being. In other words, it has to be complete and total non-being. This sense of non-being would mean the complete and total absence of God, the universe, ideas, numbers, the laws of physics, light and dark, death and life, space and time, and any conceivable thing whatsoever. Obviously, this state of total non-being does not exist because we are here to talk about it. And so this all-encompassing non-being is a figment of the imagination. And figments of the imagination are themselves beings, and so being remains the biggest, most generic concept. Nevertheless, such a concept of total non-being is a very important concept, because the only way we can define being in its broadest sense is to say that it's not non-being, it's not nothing, because we have nothing else to compare being to. I see, I said. Okay, and so we have reached the top and the measure of all things. In a sense, Sophia replied, really, this cornerstone is more of a launch pad. Look up. I turned to look. High above, past the back edge of the cornerstone, I saw what looked like a window in the sky, a brilliant vertical disk shining like the sun. What is that? That, Sophia said, is capital B being, the source of all lowercase b being. That is the true high point of all things, and there you must ascend to complete your journey. And how do I climb up to that? You can't, Sophia replied, and yet you must. I sat there for a while pondering this puzzle. I wanted to know the secret. Let go, I thought. Move on this moment, follow this feeling. Somehow I knew what I had to do. I took my boots and socks off and carefully walked to the back edge of the cornerstone until my toes were hanging over the edge of the precipice. Clumps of snow tumbled to the lithium sea 20 miles below. I was shaking with dread. What is that moment between thought and action? An infinite chasm. When does the thought end and the action begin? A timeless, immeasurable eternity. I stepped out into my death, but there was no fall, and yet, somehow, I knew there wouldn't be. I walked forward over the open air as many steps as a seraph has wings. I looked up, facing the window in the sky, extended my arms, and let out a loud cry. I was carried upward by an invisible embrace until I was facing the window. Love streamed outward and inward from it like liquid flame. I was drawn into the disk and disappeared from the universe. Inside, all was dark. There was a faint scent of myrrh and aloe. Terror overwhelmed me. Is this the cave in the earth I reached into when I first confronted my fear at the railroad tracks? Despite my fear, love was beckoning me. Surrender, I thought. I surrendered. I was now falling forward into something, no longer under my own will, and yet this was everything I willed. I drew near a flame, a deep red flame, the heart of love. I was drawn in through the side, where the fire was rent open like a veil. The fire closed behind me, and then I heard the primal rhythm of a heartbeat, rushing blood, a living soul, a loving spirit, a divine conception, and then, like the incomprehensible glare of blinding light when you stare into the sun, I was absorbed into the infinite ocean of being. What did you see? Sophia asked. I was sitting on the mountaintop again, but I couldn't remember how I got there or how long I was gone. I don't know what it means, I replied. This is beyond you, Sophia affirmed. It was a glimpse of something too great to comprehend, a foretaste of heaven. I saw the light, I continued, still enchanted. It was the light of purest love that I had seen in the angel of the Lord's eyes, the light that flows in and out of his heart. It was the star I saw on the North Pole, the star of the mist you came out of when I opened my eyes and began this journey. But it wasn't just my beginning, it was the very beginning, the beginning without a beginning, the beginning of every beginning, but it was also the end of every end, because everything I ever wanted or could possibly want was in that light. I was finally home. Sophia replied, "It is time then for you to write your journey so far, because in a sense it is now complete. The rest of your journey will be a maturation of what you saw here as an infant. There are many ancient NT texts we will read. It is time to begin writing your own ancient NT text." I have no interest in writing, Sophia. I am satisfied. I won't leave this mountaintop. I've seen the promised land, and it is God himself. You've only just begun your journey, Sophia said. There is nothing higher than God, but your encounter with him, your capacity for him, can and will be much greater. It's like a chalice being filled with wine. Your chalice, just starting out, is small right now. We need to make it much bigger, and it will become much bigger if you continue this journey. And God has not yet offered you all that He has to offer you. You've only been given a tiny glimpse, enough to prime your intellect to receive the truth and so begin your journey. I protested, I can't put that into words. Anything I write will be as worthless as straw. Not to your mother, Sophia replied. I snapped out of my trance. Yes, Chava, you're right. I have to tell her her own story is just beginning, and her children are part of her story. That's right, Sophia affirmed. Mother, Bib is the other little cylinder I briefly mentioned, the twin of Arrow that flies out of the side of my watch when it's time for me to write. But whereas Arrow is just a simple little cylinder, Bib comes out like a tiny version of one of those thin double straws for coffee. Wait, okay, Sophia, how in the world is Chava going to know what I'm talking about? She replied, Gavriel will teach her how to understand everything you write. And what about Adam? What's he going to be doing all this time? It's pronounced Adam in Hebrew, which you will also learn. Anyway, Chava will teach him. Why not just address the book to both of them? Or why not just take them on the journey instead of me? Because, Aleph, God likes to work through. God is community, a communication of one to another. This will take some time for you to understand. Also, Chava must know the full consequences of reaching for the secret too soon, and only a distant child of hers can show her that. Okay, but then why is my own ancient text going to be ancient? I'm the eternal Gen Alpha, remember? That's about as not ancient as you can get. She replied, because your book will begin with the first words, and your readers will be the first humans, and that's as ancient as it gets. So your book will be an ancient Enti text. Well, I said, whatever the ancient texts are, I want to read them. You will. I'll give you the right text to read at the right time. And the first will in fact be your own because it begins at the beginning without any other beginning. The very first words of your book will be a doorway to that beginning. Mother, before I tell you what happened next, I need to finish what I was saying about Bib. Bib is like two cylinders joined in a figure 8 shape, looking at it lengthwise, like a coffee straw, which I guess Gavriel will show you, just like he'll show you everything I'm talking about. I don't know how you're going to explain this all to Adam. I'm guessing you're just going to tell him the things he can understand and keep the rest in your heart. Anyway, the coffee straw-shaped cylinder splits into a pen and either a book or a scroll of light, depending on how you want to read or write it. I prefer the book form. I guess you don't need me to explain the Book of Light because Sophia will already have shown it to you and you're reading it right now. But it's a book that's as many pages as you want it to be, and the pages can load a certain amount of text, which you can make any language you want, and you can make the text as big or as small as you want. The edges of the pages glow like fiber optics. The pages look like normal paper, and the print like normal ink, but the pages act like a touch screen. You can touch words to see or hear their definition, and if you see references to other articles or books, you can touch them and the pages load that article or book. Then you can touch the reference number and return to what you were reading. When I write in it, it can automatically turn my writing into typewritten print. And you can make the book be 100 pages or 200 pages or whatever you like in any size you want. If I'm using it to display a book other than my own, I like it to be as many pages in the same size and look as the definitive edition of that particular book. In fact, Bib can become an exact replica of an ancient book or manuscript or valuable first edition. I once had her transform into a mint condition copy of the first Superman comic book. Bib can also show video and other animations. Now, here's what happened after Sophia told me that the first words of my book will be the gateway to the beginning of all beginnings. She told me, your journey through the ultimate education will be the opposite of Janae's in a sense, in that you're starting from the highest perspective and then working your way down to the particulars. It's like admiring a tree's beauty by starting with the trunk and letting your eye be drawn up through the branches to the leaves, so that everything you see is in harmony and unity with everything that came before. And as you learn, you will write. But for the first few lessons, I'm going to let Bib do the writing for you because I'm giving you your first few words. As soon as she said that, Bib flew out of my watch and became a book, which I then took into my hands. Sophia continued, because the realities these first words represent are the pattern of all things, and so that there can be no mistaking what the first 12 words of your book will be, they will appear not only at the top of page 1, but also at the top of the cover, the spine, and the back cover, so that whether you're reading the first page or reaching for the book in the library, these will be the first words you see. Now, I want you to meditate deeply on each word, so I want you to decide whether you want to look at each word as it appears on the first page or on the cover as you begin this mother of all first lessons. I replied, I want to begin to see the first words as they appear on the spine, because that's the first thing you see when you reach for a book in the library. Very well, she said. Then look at the top edge of the book. I turned to look at the top edge, which was wide because this is a big book. And just then, these mysterious symbols appeared. Are these the words, Sophia? Yes, she said. And more than that, they're the first words, the first realities. Both lines are in Hebrew. They are read from right to left. The first line is written in the oldest form of the alphabet, which was used around the time God wrote the 10 Commandments with his own finger. It is called the Old Linear Phoenician script. It looks strange, but also familiar. Look at the first 2 letters, which are on the right. The first letter is the letter A. Do you see it? Yes, I do. It's like the letter A on its side. That's right. And the next letter is a soft B, which is pronounced like the letter V. Do you see the B? Not really. Oh, wait. Maybe I do. It's like a backwards, upside down lowercase b. That's right, she said. See, you kind of already know the Phoenician script because your own alphabet is descended from it. And what is the second line, I asked. That's the more modern Hebrew script that the Bible is written in, and that second line is the first verse of the Bible. I asked, but shouldn't the first words of the Bible be the first words? She replied, you're not rewriting the Bible. You're covering the whole library of knowledge for your mother, which includes the Bible. We're starting the Via Sophia by climbing as high as possible and backing up as far as possible. Genesis 1:1 is the first sentence in the Bible, and it describes the beginning of time. And there is no before Genesis 1:1 in time because it marks the beginning of time. But there is a before in the cause of Genesis 1:1, namely, the one who spoke these words into being. He is the ultimate beginning as the author of all things. He is the creator and author of Genesis 1:1, and he therefore precedes it as a cause precedes its effect. And that first line, The one above Genesis 1:1 in the Phoenician alphabet, that line names God. Therefore, no book or word or idea is your beginning, but God alone is your beginning. But even within God, there is an order, not of before and after, but of one from another, as you will soon see. And since, just as things are in reality, so they are in truth, we begin with God himself in his very substance, which no words can grasp. Still, I said to Sophia, you're giving me words, so can you tell me what these words say? She replied, I suppose that before we go into a deep meditation on each word, you could use an overview, but you will hardly understand the overview. That's okay, I said. I hardly understood the window in the sky. Okay, she said. The first line names God. It says Father, Son, Holy Spirit, Yahweh. And here is an overview of these two lines in which is found the meaning of life. God the Father, infinitely wise, in knowing himself, eternally produces an image of himself. This emanation from his mind, this eternal word, is the Son, equal to the Father in all things, and one God with him, being of the same substance, essence, and nature. As the Father and the Son behold each other's infinite goodness, they eternally breathe forth the Holy Spirit, who proceeds from the will of the Father and the Son as the infinite expression of their boundless love, and he is one and the same God with them. And so God is one, but not solitary. He is a living community within himself of knowing and loving. And in this infinite exchange of living, knowing love, he is infinitely happy and blessed because he is infinite being and thus infinite goodness. The proper name of this one God who is three persons is Yahweh. This is the name that is above every other name. It is the theory of everything. It is a Hebrew name that means He is. For God is being itself. As St. Thomas Aquinas says, since God is subsistent being itself, nothing belonging to the perfection of being can be lacking in him, but the perfections of all things belong to the perfection of being. And yet this one entirely simple and perfect God is a threefold I am, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. This is the Christian doctrine of the most holy Trinity, which is the pattern that runs like a musical theme throughout all existing things. Because if being itself is Trinitarian, then all created being will bear traces of the Trinity. The doctrine of the Trinity is the light that enlightens all other mysteries. Now, like the shining sun, which does not hold back its light, God is infinitely generous, and so he wanted to share his infinite happiness with creatures that are not God. So God created a universe that contains living spirits, some in a state of relative perfection, namely angels, and others that must journey toward their perfection, namely humans, and through them all physical creation. These journeying creatures came from God and are constantly progressing toward God, their life. And this is eternal life, that we may know and love God and enjoy his beauty forever. Now, that's probably a bit much for you to take in all at once, So let's turn our thoughts to each word at the beginning of your book, and so begin the ultimate education and live life to the fullest in this education, since to know God and all his works is to live. We have reached the highest heights with the notion of being, and within that highest height, you have seen an even higher height that has no top, which is God Most High. Within that infinite height, we must now back up as far as we can possibly back up, because human learning happens in part through words, and words are necessarily arranged such that one word comes before another. So if we're really going to do the ultimate education, then we're not going to start any old place. We're going to back up to where all being and all knowledge and all words begin. For in everything that exists, there is an order of before and after, except for one thing. And that one thing is therefore the beginning of all else. The ultimate beginning of our journey isn't a point or a line that unfolds into a path like the yellow brick road. It's not an idea. It's not even a word. Although we must use a word, the first word, the word you're looking at right now, as a doorway into this reality. Rather, the beginning is a divine person, a person who can be approached anytime and anywhere. And so, as you begin, although the path seems to begin with the word, it really begins with the one the word represents. And you don't have to ascend to the window in the sky this time, because he's already right in the center of your heart and your mind. He is closer to you than you are to yourself. Now, let us begin at this beginning before which there is no other beginning.